In Crust, we trust. Today it's all about getting flavor into the bread. What a lovely day to bake. My name is Arne, a German hobby baker who is living in Luxembourg. I love sourdough bread. Ever since I have read the book Tartine Bread by Chad Robertson, my version of San Francisco sourdough bread has been very popular with me. Wheat breads are in general a bit boring. The main flavor carried in bread is the salt. After that, nothing. Then maybe the sourdough. The crust is underestimated far too much, but you get great flavors like caramel, coffee, and chocolate in the bread. Let's focus on the crust today, and in my next video, I will show you what else you can do to add more flavor to your bread. So be sure to subscribe to my channel. So let's get started. This is from Luxembourg with Loaf. We start the evening before we want to bake by creating our levain from an active sourdough starter. Therefore, we combine 80 grams of water with 80 grams of flour, and then we add a tablespoon of sourdough starter. And then we mix everything together. And don't throw that away. You can use your sourdough starter, for example, to make my discard bread. I have posted the link in the upper right corner. So after everything has been combined, you can close the lid and add a rubber band to mark the height. At the next day, the levain has doubled in size, and that's a good sign. It looks really bubbly. We need, next to the 170 grams of levain, 640 grams of flour, and I'm using here 160 grams of Khorasan wheat. You can also use rye or whatever you have. We need 600 grams of water, that's 75%, and 16 grams of salt. I've replaced some water with ice cubes that will keep the dough temperature low while mixing. Then it's time to add the Khorasan wheat and then the normal flour. We add the levain to the dough. And then it's time to start the mixer at a low speed. And then we mix it for about 10 minutes. Once everything is beautifully combined, we add the salt to the dough and then add a little bit of water, which I have left aside at the beginning. So once the water has been incorporated, we increase the speed to maximum, and then we add the remaining bits of water. After about 14 to 18 minutes, the dough should look like this, and if you stretch it out, you can see the gluten has been developed quite a lot. So it's time now to transfer the dough into a plastic container. I'm using here a spray which prevents the dough from sticking. That's a special spray for dealing with doughs, for example, or cakes. Then I wet my hand and I will transfer the dough directly into that plastic container. I close the lid and wait for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes at room temperature, you could already see the gluten development has been really nicely going on. So I wet my hands and then I make a first set of coil folds by pulling the dough up and folding it over. I rotate the bowl and then doing the same step again. I close the lid and wait for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, it's time for the second set of coil folds. Same procedure as before, wetten your hands. You always wetten your hands because that prevents the dough from sticking, and then do the coil folds. You see after another 30 minutes of waiting that the dough has kept his shape quite a lot. That's really nice. And then we do that third coil fold. And then we let the dough rest for another 30 minutes. And after another 30 minutes, the dough already looks quite nicely, but I'm doing a fourth set of coil folds. And then I close the lid and let the dough ferment for about 4 hours. After that time, I just put a little bit of flour onto my countertop. The dough is now really bubbly. That's a good sign, and then I dump it onto my countertop. What I'm doing now is called the pre-shaping. Therefore, I divide my dough into 2 pieces. You can also use a kitchen scale if you want to have the exact half of the dough. And then what I'm doing, I'm just forming these dough balls with my dough scraper. That looks quite nice, and then I'm repeating this step with the other half of the dough. Once this has been done, the dough stays uncovered for about 10 to 20 minutes. So for the shaping, all we need to do is we just add a little bit of flour on top. I'm trying out here a new shaping technique, and I think you're going to like that because it's way easier than all the things I have tried out before. And I already repeated that for some times now, and always the results are amazing. So add a little bit of flour to your Benetton as well. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the dough up and I place it into my hand upside down. So the non-sticky side on my hands. And then all I do is push the dough together and seam the edges, and then I'm rotating the dough and do exactly the same thing again. And this already goes into the Benetton. Isn't that easy? And then what you can do in order to get some more tension, you can stitch the edges a little bit, but this is not required. And then I'm repeating that process with the other half of the dough. So just squeeze the edges together, rotate and do the same thing again. And then they already go into the Benetton. So what we're doing now is we also cover the dough with some plastic foil that prevents the bottom side from drying in the fridge, because they will now left in the fridge overnight. The next day I've preheated my oven to 250 degrees Celsius, and this is my setup. I have here 2 baking steel. You can also use a baking tray on top, and then I've placed the baking tray on the bottom, and this is where the water goes in to create some steam. And then I'm transferring the loaves on parchment paper. And here this one is out of silicone, so I can reuse it all the time. And I have a wooden board on the bottom, and this will allows me to slide in the loaves quite easily. So all we need to do is now we need to score the loaves, and therefore I'm taking here a knife, and in a 45 degrees angle I score them. And here I wasn't deep enough, so I scored a little bit more. And this is now ready to get into the oven. And then I have here some boiling water, which I fill into the baking tray on the bottom, and this will create a steam, and that steam gets stuck between the 2 baking steels. After 10 minutes at 250 degrees Celsius, that's 482 degrees Fahrenheit, I remove the second baking steel and also the tray on the bottom, so I don't need any steam anymore. These are already looking really nice, so I now reduce the temperature to 230 degrees Celsius and they bake for another 35 minutes. And after that time they look really golden brown. Maybe a little bit dark brown, but this is what I wanted to achieve, like a darker crust to get more flavor in that bread. And this will now cool down for about an hour. So let's have a look inside. Sound is really amazing. Let's see. Wow, this is a really nice open crumb, thanks to my new shaping technique. And here are some impressions from the bread. It looks really gorgeous. You see the blisters, it's like dark brown colored, but you also see that golden brown from the Khorasan wheat. Pretty nice bread. You see cracks on the surface. It looks really delicious. And also like this open crumb shot is really impressive. I think I've never had such good results from a shaping technique. Pretty amazing. I will definitely repeat that.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Have you already baked your bread this hot and long? I think it was worth it, and the crust smells wonderfully of caramel and slightly of coffee, rounded off by the crumb, which has really light fruity aromas thanks to my sourdough. A great bread. How do you like your sourdough bread best, and what are your tips to more flavor? Leave me a comment under the video. If you want to support me and my channel, please like this video, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss my next videos. I wish you a great day, Eddie, and goodbye.